The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to have a webinar about SEO, search engine optimization, specifically how to develop a framework for a winning SEO strategy. I am flying solo today. I often have a co-host or a co-presenter or a guest presenter or something, but today it's just me. So what I'm going to ask you to do in order to keep this a little more lively is to participate as much as possible. Shoot me questions, shoot me comments, send me chat messages. Let's be a little interactive today. It won't be as formal and holding off questions till the end. You can definitely just ask me a question throughout the presentation, and I'll get it answered for you. So we'll try to do a little more back and forth in place of having a co-host. So, a little about me. If this is your first Pam Ann webinar, I am Pam Ungst, owner of Pam Ann Marketing, and I refer to myself as a web traffic controller. I do all forms of online marketing, basically anything involved with driving traffic to a website. My company also makes websites, but my real specialty is in driving traffic to them with SEO and other forms of online marketing. But today we're going to talk about the SEO part of things. So I am recording this, and we're going to send this out afterwards if for anyone who couldn't make it. And I'll also send out the slides that you're seeing today afterwards. And you can, oops, if I could change the slide. Here we go. At the bottom there is a download link, so instead of Fever's taking notes, you can just download the slides and refer to them later. So, like I said, shoot me questions along the way. There's the chat feature and there's the Q&A feature, and make sure that you don't miss the opportunity to get a question answered. So what we're going to go over today, per our agenda, is I'll give you a brief SEO 101 for those of you who aren't entirely familiar with what is involved in SEO. And then I'll go over my threefold approach to SEO. It's not really mine per se as in proprietary, but it's a way of organizing the information and the tasks that need to be done into 3 clear buckets in order to help you make a clear strategy. And then we'll talk about measurement and improvement and what's new in SEO as far as what is the latest trends in SEO for 2013. So, like I said, I'm not going to I've used this slide deck before, and I've asked to hold questions till the end, but not being that formal today. So if you have questions, go ahead and send them on in throughout the presentation. Okay, so SEO 101. What is SEO, or search engine optimization? Basically, the way it works is Google does data entry with your website. So similar to the way that you can take a bunch of handwritten information on a piece of paper and enter it into a spreadsheet for more organization and more ability to sort the info and more ability to search through the info, that's what Google does with your website. So you can have the prettiest website in the world, but if the code is not, if the information as far as the text and the code is not in the right places and it's not organized cleanly, Google's going to have a hard time inserting it into its giant spreadsheet or index or database of all the sites on the internet. So here's an example of my website and an index of the information in it. That on the right, that's what Google's index looks like. So the images don't come into play, the colors don't come into play, all those visual aesthetics don't matter. It's just what words are on your website and where are they. That's what determines how Google organizes the information about your site. So what happens when a searcher goes and types something into Google is Google refers to that database, to its own index. So it doesn't search your website live per se, it searches its copy of your website that it has inserted into its database or its giant spreadsheet. So as far as an SEO strategy, as the first bucket of things is basically the part of things, which is you don't want to confuse Google. You want to make sure your site is technically optimized so that all the information, the right words, are in the right place, so that when Google goes to put your website in that database, it doesn't get confused. It has an easy time translating the information over into where it's supposed to be. So like I said, that's the first bucket of things, is technical. Make sure your site is technically correct so that Google can insert it easily into its index. And so how do you do that, though? How do you know if your site is technically correct? Well, here's one way to check. There's tools out there that you can use. You run your website through them, and the tools will tell you if your website is technically correct or not, and what parts are correct and what are not. So the one that I like to use is called WooRank, and you can run a report in WooRank for free. So you go there and you type in your website name, and you'll get a report of everything that's wrong with it, basically. So what you can do with that is hand that report to your webmaster and cry if necessary if it costs you a lot to get it fixed. But it's just a one-time fix. That's the good news, is these things are just one time, get them fixed, get them taken care of, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. So let's see, I've got a question I'm going to pause to take. Okay, so the question is, when you make changes, it could take some time before people begin seeing those changes via search. Yes, okay, yes, so it does take time because of that process, that indexing process. So good question. When you make a change to your website, it's not necessarily in Google's index or its database right away. It can take some time, and there's no preset schedule for how often Google will crawl your site. It may be every couple of days, maybe every couple of weeks. The more popular your site is, the more often it's going to index it. The most popular sites, like the news sites, CNN and whatnot, they are indexed multiple times per day, or almost in real time. But yes, it may take some time before you see changes taking effect in your search engine performance based upon changes that you made to your site, because Google only comes to your site once in a while to recollect that information. So good question. Thank you for that, Roxanne. Okay, so another question real quick. Let's see. Is there a way to tell if Google has recently indexed your site? Good question, Michael. Yes. You can see that information in Google Webmaster Tools. So that's, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's actually not something I had covered in these slides here. But Google Webmaster Tools will give you a whole bunch of information about how Google views your site, including how recently it was indexed. So great question. Definitely just go to Google Webmaster Tools and set up your site. There's a short verification process you have to go through if you haven't done it before. But then you'll be able to see that information. And also, Google will deliver warnings to you. So if you have knowingly or unknowingly done something wrong in their eyes, they will deliver warnings to you through Google Webmaster Tools. So definitely go set that up. Thanks for asking that, Michael. Good question. All right, so next bucket, bucket number 2, is what I refer to and many others refer to as on-page. So these are all different things that you can do on your website in order to make it more search engine friendly. The first of which has to do with keywords. And the first thing I want to do when talking about keywords is debunk a myth right off the bat. Straight from the horse's mouth, Google says they do not use the meta keywords tag. For those of you not familiar with the meta keywords tag, back in the 90s when the internet first, when Google first started indexing sites online, I mean, the way that it knew what a site was about was it referred to this little tag in the code of the website where people would put keywords to tell Google what the website was about. At first, that was the only way, when Google wasn't very sophisticated, for it to know what a website was about. But people quickly figured out how to game the system with that, and they started stuffing all sorts of keywords in there that they wanted their website to rank for, some of which having nothing at all to do with the website, and therefore that would result in Google delivering irrelevant search results to searchers, and Google didn't want to do that. So quite a long time ago, they stopped looking at the meta keywords tag. So if you're going to have somebody do your SEO and they say they're going to do something with the meta keywords tag, show them the door. They do not know what they're talking about, because that has been out of the picture for a long time. So what does still apply as far as keywords go is keyword research. And you can do your own keyword research via Google's free tool called the Google AdWords Keyword Tool. And basically what you do with this tool is you take a keyword or a key phrase that you want to rank for, and you put it into the tool to find two things. First, all the different variations and different ways that that phrase can be searched. There's a ton of different ways to say the same thing. You know, if you are a roofing contractor, you know, it could be roofing contractor, contractors roofing, roofing construction company, roofing contracting company, you know, so on and so forth. There can be a lot of different ways to say the same thing. So if you put in a phrase in this Google AdWords keyword tool, it will tell you the most common other ways that that phrase gets typed into Google, and it tells you the search volume, how many searches per month occur on that term. So what you want to do with that information is take the Goldilocks approach and select the ones that are not too hot, not too cold, ones that are just right, the ones that have a nice healthy amount of search volume, number of searches per month, but not so much so that you're going to be competing against a bazillion websites and you're not going to have a hope or a prayer of ranking. So for most small businesses, I advise starting out in the 4-digit range, meaning, you know, not terms that have a couple of hundred searches per month, but terms that have a couple of thousand searches per month, yet not tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, because those are going to be way too hard to rank for. So you want to select the ones that are just in that sweet spot in the middle, a nice healthy amount of traffic, but not so much competition that you're going to get blown away. So just a reminder here for anyone who just joined us, I'm flying solo today. I don't have a co-presenter or a co-host, so I'm trying to be a little more interactive and taking questions throughout the presentation. So if you have questions or comments or anything at all to say, send it on in the chat or questions section. So next is site structure. Still in the on-page bucket here. It's where those, so you have the phrases now that you're going to use on your site, but how to organize that information is what site structure refers to. So a lot of times you'll see a website and it has a services page, you know, all the different services that this company offers. And it's a whole list of this and that and this and that and this and that. When Google looks at this page, it's like, okay, what is this page about? And it's kind of hard to tell because there's all these different topics on one page. And Google likes to look at things on a page level basis and categorize the page accordingly. So, you know, it's okay to have an index page for all your services like this, but what is best is if each service has its own page. So if you give the searcher or your web visitor and Google the ability to drill down and click on one service and get a page only about that service, that will make it really easy for Google to tell what topic that page is about and to index your site accordingly. So if you are a landscaping company and you do landscape design and property maintenance, then you want to have, it's okay to have one services page that lists both property landscape design and property maintenance, but you want to make sure that you can click on each one of those and get to a page just about landscape design and another separate page just about property maintenance. I hope that makes sense. If anything doesn't make sense, shoot me a question. So the third element of the second bucket of on-page strategy is content strategy. So the keyword research for your services that your company offers and the listing of the information on your website about the services that your company offers are kind of one-time changes that you're going to make to the site. But Google wants to see your site be an ever-fresh, ever-expanding encyclopedia on your topic. And so that requires a content strategy. And usually a content strategy simply means a blog. To have a blog and to blog religiously, regularly. My suggestion is once a week. I've had great success blogging with keyword-optimized blog articles once per week and supporting them with a strong social media presence, but we'll get to that in the off-page part of things. A note about having a blog, the blog needs to be on your own website in order for it to provide search engine benefit for you. It can't be on WordPress.com or Blogger.com. And it's nice that those services offer a real quick and easy way to set up a blog, but they're not, those blogs are not on your website. So that doesn't really do anything for you when Google goes to crawl your website and index your website into its database. It wants to see those articles, that's fresh content on your site. So question, let's see. My screen is cut off, so I can't see the name of the person who entered it, but do these tips all apply to Bing, etc.? Okay, good question. So I keep talking about Google, and yeah, I tend to focus only on Google. Oh, there's the name, George. Thanks, George. I tend to focus only on Google because they have the lion's share of the search market. They have, I think, I don't know, it bounces around, somewhere around 70% of all searches that are done on Google. So I focus the most on Google. You know, Bing and Yahoo, their algorithms are different, but the overall concepts that we're talking about here apply to all search engines. So whether it's Google or Bing or Yahoo. So pretty much it's usually sufficient to just focus on Google, and the other ones kind of fall into place. Unless you're a huge, you know, national retailer or something, and you need to make sure, you know, that you cover every single, you know, top results page for every single search engine in the world, then, you know, those companies have the resources to apply different strategies to different search engines, but most businesses don't. And like I said, the overall concepts are the same. So if you pay attention to Google, your Bing and your Yahoo usually fall into place. A good question there. Another question from Kristen. What if you're trying to optimize a WordPress blog? If you have the blog installed on your own website, then all these same concepts apply. If the WordPress blog is on WordPress.com, the keyword research part of things applies and the content organization applies, but the technical part doesn't. Overall, it's like I was just saying before, it's really best to have your blog on your own domain for search engine purposes. So I'm not sure if I fully understood the question correctly. If I didn't, just shoot me another comment. But you know, these concepts apply to all sites overall. So even if you are trying to optimize a blog on WordPress.com or on Blogger.com, it's pretty much, except for the technical side of things, it all still applies. Okay, question from Debbie. But the blog can be on WordPress.org and linked to in your site navigation, can't it? On WordPress.org, that's throwing me off a little bit because WordPress.org usually refers to the WordPress software that you can download and put on your own site. So if you went to WordPress.org and you downloaded the WordPress software from there, chances are you put it on your own site, and then it's not necessarily linked to, but it's part of your site. Yeah, you might want to shoot me. Oh, okay, wait, here's clarification. Actually, that's what I mean. The blog is part of your hosting account. Yes, so if you downloaded WordPress from WordPress.org, then you put it on your own hosting, your own website, and then that's what I was referring to as blog being on your own website. I hope that clears that up. Okay, another question before we move on. How do you blog on your website if you don't use WordPress or Blogger? Do you create separate pages for your blog on your website like you would for service or about us? Ah, good question. Okay, thanks, Elizabeth. Now, if you don't have WordPress installed on your website, how do you make new blog articles? Yes, you can manually create new pages as you would for services or about us. You can manually create a new page for every blog article. That tends to be a lot more cumbersome and time-consuming than installing a content management system like WordPress on your site, but it can be done. The point is to add, continuously add content to your website that's fresh and new and keyword-rich, and if you have to do it manually, then, do it manually. That'll work. It'll just be, really not time efficient in the long run. All right, I think that answers this round of questions, so I'm going to move on. So basically, blog religiously, and in order to get the search rankings, keyword optimizing each blog article is a good idea. Going to Google AdWords keyword tool and typing in the phrase that you want to use for your blog article and finding that sweet spot, that sweet way of saying it that's a healthy amount of searches but not too competitive. Keyword optimizing each blog article is a good idea, but basically, if your blog is awesome, the search rankings will follow. If people enjoy the article, they spend a lot of time on the article, they link to the article, they share the article on social, Google pays attention to all of that. So it basically wants to serve up content that people like. So if people are spending a long time on your site reading it and sharing it, then Google's going to notice that and your search rankings will follow. So, keyword optimizing each article is great, but just be awesome and, everything will follow accordingly. One way to keep your blogging stress to a minimum is an editorial calendar. This can really help avoid writer's block and that overall sense of stress that comes with blogging, like, oh my goodness, I need to be blogging, what do I blog about, when am I going to find the time, and so on. Basically, an editorial calendar is just a spreadsheet with a couple of columns, and you can customize it to your liking, whatever works for you. I set up a category column, a title column, resources, and key phrase. So the category, for 4 posts per month, 1 per week, I set up 4 categories. Makes it easy to pick 1 topic per category, and then you're set for the month. So that's what I do, at least, 4 weeks at a time. I'll set, what topics are going to be blogged about, 1 per category, and then the resources is just really for reference information, some links to remind myself of what I was going to talk about, or what statistics I need for the article. And then the key phrase is, like I said, in the Google AdWords keyword tool, what I found to be the best way to say it, which essentially should be the title or a portion of the title of the article. And if you do that in 1 sitting per month and lay that all out, then that writer's block is gone. You know exactly what you're going to write about. And you can even sit down and bust out all 4 articles at once, and then you're done for the month. So you can schedule them to post 1 per week, but you can just spend 1 day per month on the writing. And each blog article does not need to be very long. It's only 300 to 500 words or 3 to 5 paragraphs is all you need. Actually, shorter the better. People don't tend to want to read big, long, pages of text when they're online. They're kind of skimming and reading things quickly. So basically, if you set that up that way, you can you'll at least know for the month ahead what you need to blog about, whether you do it once per week and you sit down and you say Friday afternoons are blogging day. At least when you go to sit down and do it, you know exactly what you're going to write about. Or you can write them for the month all at once. It really helps a lot. So here's a case study of what actually happened when I put all this into play for a blog. Over the course of 16 months, this blog went from 0 visits, obviously, because it was brand new, to about 7,000 visitors per month. And that was simply done by blogging once per week, keyword optimizing each article, and spreading the articles around with a strong social media presence. And you'll see there's a little ramp-up time. It kind of, Google took notice right away and indexed the blog, and then it kind of churned along for a little while, and it took some time for the authority to be built up as far as Google was concerned, and that's actually a lot to do with the third bucket, which is off-page, which we're going to get to in just a second here. But once it did, once Google considered, that this is an authoritative site, and we kept going with the keyword optimized blogging and the strong social media, this snowball effect, this exponential growth just took, I guess around February 2012, it just took off, and it just kept going. So this stuff actually works. It really does. So I just wanted to show some data to prove it, and to say that there is a bit of a ramp-up period, so don't get discouraged. If you're working really hard on your blogging and your keywording and everything, keep at it, because once you hit that point where Google really has just kind of approved your site as an authoritative site, then you're going to see really good results. So third bucket and final bucket is off-page. Off-page refers to anything that you can do to help your search engine optimization that does not happen on your website. And that falls into two categories. The first one is links. Basically, Google looks at the internet like a flight route map. So similar to the way you can look at a map like this and see, you can easily tell right away what are important areas, which are important hubs, just by seeing, the number of lines that go to it and that little green blurb that, having a lot of lines in one place makes. That's how Google looks at all the sites on the internet. So if you have a lot of important sites linking to you, then Google says, well, obviously you're important. Now, it is quality, not just quantity, because this is another system that people eventually figured out how to game. People built their own link hubs and link networks, and they're still there now. I mean, you can buy links in these link hubs, in these link farms, but it's really not a good idea, because Google realized that people figured out how to game the system, and so they came out with algorithm changes that will actually penalize you for doing that. So it is more about, it's both about quantity and quality, but link building is mostly about quality actually nowadays. But this is the concept that if a lot of important, if like LaGuardia to San Diego, you see important links to your site from important sites and other reputable sites, tells Google that your site is important and reputable too. So how do you get those links? Again, if you write awesome content, this will all fall into place. If your blog is really genuinely useful to people, whether they do business with you or not, then you're going to end up getting linked to. If you are a contractor and you wrote an article on how to, winterize your home, a DIY type article, then, if it's a really great article, then people who are out there on the internet in discussion forums, those bulletin board things or in social media, and they're impressed with your article, they're going to share it. They're going to say, oh, look, here's, if they're talking to somebody about winterizing, oh, I saw this article the other day, here's the link to it. That's how it happens. It's really just being awesome. But there is, purchasing links is not allowed per Google, but paying for exposure for your awesome content is okay. So here's one example of how you can do that. StumbleUpon is just a huge driver of traffic, whether you pay for their paid discovery or not. At one point in time, they were driving more traffic to websites than Facebook was. that Facebook has now exceeded them, but they StumbleUpon still drives huge amounts of traffic, and they offer a paid discovery service where basically it just helps keep your content that you've stumbled or added to StumbleUpon. It keeps it up towards the top and doesn't let it get buried by the other new stuff that's coming in. And so it's not purchasing links per se, but it's purchasing more exposure for your awesome content and thereby increasing the chance that people are going to link to it, because a certain percentage of those eyeballs that get onto your awesome content are going to link to it. So the more exposure, the more eyeballs you get, the more links you're going to have. And this is one example of paid content promotion where that will help you get more links. I hope that made sense. Let me know if anything needs further clarification. And that leads us, though, into the second element of off-page optimization, which is social media. So being that, just like people figured out how to game the system with the meta keywords tag, and then they figured out how to game the system with the link building, Google is now turning to social media to figure out whether a site is reputable, because it knows that if a piece of content or a website has a lot of likes and retweets and plus ones and pins on Pinterest and all that, they know that people like the site. So Google's going to want to serve up that site in its search results, because its goal is to serve up sites that people like. So it's taking into account social signals into the search engine algorithms. This is a study that was done by Searchmetrics to figure out how much weight each type of social signal had as far as Facebook shares or likes or tweets. We don't really need to dive into the numbers. The point is, the more the better. The more social signals you have on your content, the better. So building strong social media presences is important simply because when you use those to share your content, it's going to get you those social signals that you need in order for Google to look at your site as reputable. And this is just increasing more and more and more. Every time I read a new article about the latest algorithms, or go to one of the search trade shows, all you hear is social signals, social signals, social signals. It's just more and more and more coming into account. So if nothing else, a lot of people debate the value of social media for certain businesses or certain industries or overall. If nothing else, you need to have strong social media profiles in order to support your search engine optimization. So, okay, before I dive into measurement, I have another question. Just like people have gamed the other systems, haven't they also figured out ways to buy social signals? In your opinion, will this affect SEO? Ooh, excellent question. Yes, certain things can be bought as far as social media goes. The ways that I've seen that happening are in buying of followers, and sometimes in buying of things like views on YouTube videos. So yes, that system can be gamed to a degree, but as with all the other things, Google is just going to keep making its algorithm more and more sophisticated until it gets past that. So, and it already is, actually. For example, the algorithm referred to as author rank is one of the ones that basically it measures an individual's influence based upon their social media presence. And so it becomes quite clear that, if views or likes or fans or whatever were purchased, there's not a lot of engagement and interaction. They're fake accounts. So Google will see that and know that, and place a lot less weight on those than the real ones. So yes, people will always figure out a way to game the system, no matter what Google decides to pay attention to next. But Google has shown that it will, in turn, figure out how to determine what's fake versus what's not. So, there's no quick fixes, and as tempting as it may be to, and as much as something may work at first as far as gaming Google, ultimately they're going to figure it out. They're going to enhance their algorithms. That's what they do. They issue over 100 algorithm updates every month. They're going to figure it out. So, you know, to be genuine and authentic in the way you do all of this is highly advised. So, excellent question. Okay, so we've went over the three aspects, the technical, the on-page, and the off-page, and you know what to do in each of those areas. So, but then how do you measure your success and your return on your efforts? That can be done in a website traffic monitoring tool like Google Analytics. Most people use Google Analytics because it's free and because it's great. There's a lot of information in there, but that's the greatest strength and the greatest weakness of Google Analytics is there's so much to look at in there. There are so many reports, so many metrics. You can just get lost in there so quickly and easily. So this is my top 3 metrics that I recommend looking at in order to measure your success. The first one is organic keywords. So keywords that were used in organic, meaning non-paid searches that the searcher ultimately landed on your website. The second one is individual page traffic. So you can look at all the different sub-pages on your website and see which is more popular than the other. Where this is really helpful is with blog articles. You can know which blog articles were more popular than others, and then you can do more of what works and less of what doesn't work as far as your blog writing. And the third one is referral traffic. So this is where you're going to know how well your off-page efforts are going as far as that link building and the SEO and the social media. You know, so you can see where traffic's being driven to your site from non-Google sources. So what happens when you start looking at these 3 metrics is you get ideas. For example, this is some of my what I refer to as onesie-twosies, which are organic keywords that people typed in and they landed on my site that I didn't even necessarily, you know, I only got 1 or 2 hits on each one because I wasn't really trying for these terms. But once I looked at the list of them, I got all sorts of ideas. Like, for example, optimizing for EdgeRank. EdgeRank is Facebook's algorithm that it uses to determine which posts should appear in the news feed and which shouldn't. It's something that I study and I blog about and I write ebooks on and so on and so forth. But I never thought to, until I looked at this, I never thought to add it to my services page as a service that I offer. And I guess technically it is a service that I offer. You know, I help people optimize for EdgeRank. So that was the idea that I had when I looked at that. Like, wow, I should add that to my services page and then make a services subpage for it. And so it's like if you're getting hits on these terms without even trying, imagine if you did try. That's kind of the theory behind this. So, and like the last one, not updating WordPress hurt Google rankings. I had written something on my site that touched upon the fact that if you don't update your WordPress installation, you can get hacked, and if you get hacked, you can lose your Google rankings. So without even trying, I had somebody land on my site by typing that in, and then I was like, wow, that I should really write an article, a blog article entirely about that. And that could practically be the title. And then I would, you know, again, if I got a hit without even trying, imagine if I did try. So you get all sorts of ideas when you start looking at this, and that's how you can use this for continuous improvement. So last but not least, the absolute latest trends for 2013. But first I'm going to take a question. How often do you suggest looking at Google Analytics? Good question. If you are blogging once a week, I would suggest looking at it once a month. If you are really ambitious and you're blogging every day, you may want to look at it once a week. So basically, you know, you don't have to be in there every day, and because looking at the data and little snippets like that doesn't really, it's not very useful. I mean, looking at overall trends is what you want to be doing. So I would suggest, you know, monthly typically is how often, you know, I would look at Google Analytics. Good question. All right, so latest trends for this year to pay attention to. Number 1 is authorship, and number 2 is local. Both of these have to do with Google+, and I'll explain how. Number 1, is what Google refers to as authorship. Basically, authorship is an official link between your blog and your Google Plus profile. And what that does is it gives you this little area where your picture shows up in the search results along with your article, and information on how many people have you in circles. And basically, that is part of this new author rank where Google's looking at how influential of a social media person profile you have in addition to your website content. So what happened here is when it really helps boost your rankings, and I found out because I had this article called Get Blog Article Ideas from Pinterest with Experimenting, and I was not ranking at all for the term blog article ideas. That was just not coming up. Out of 484 million sites that have that term on it, I was not ranking at all until I set up my authorship. And as soon as Google saw that I was an author who had 933 people in my Google Plus circles, it decided to rank me number 2 out of 484 million. So I went from 0 to number 2 just by setting up my authorship link. So it's a one-time thing, but it's really going to help you out. And not just help you out with ranking higher, but having that picture there it's really going to draw eyeballs and help your click-through rate. So you're not only going to get ranked higher, you're going to get clicked on more because it's just been shown in eye-tracking studies and whatnot that, you know, the image will draw the eyeballs of the people. So you're going to stand out amongst the other people on the search engine results page by having your authorship set up. So definitely set up your authorship. It's going to give you a leg up on other people in your industry who haven't done so. And the second thing is Google Local. Don't know if anyone gets the movie reference, but Google's giving huge areas of the search engine results page real estate to local results, meaning Google Maps results. So when applicable, it will show a huge area of the search engine results page as maps listings. So you want to optimize your map listing. Basically, you just want to claim it if you haven't claimed it already. You can do that by going to places.google.com. And if you have claimed it, make sure you fill it out 100%. That's essentially what's involved in optimizing your maps listing, is making sure it's fully filled out. And the second step to that is you want to get reviews on that maps page, because the way that Google determines who to rank higher than someone else within the realm of maps listings is the number of positive reviews. So you want to ask your happy customers and colleagues and whatnot to write reviews on your Google Maps page, and that will help you get ranked higher on that big chunk of area of real estate that Google has given to the maps listings on the search engine results page. So that's basically it. To recap, we have 3 areas to focus on for your SEO strategy: technical, which is a one-time fixing of issues; on page, which consists of keyword research; site structure; and a content strategy, such as a blog and using an editorial calendar to keep it going. Then the off-page elements are links and social media. Your measurement and improvement comes from your Google Analytics and watching the metrics that matter and getting ideas from your data. And then staying on top of trends can really help you get and keep a leg up on your competition as far as search engine performance. And this year that consists of authorship and local. So that is pretty much it. Does anyone else have any questions? I also want to tell you in the meantime that I have an offer. I will email it out with the recap for a discount rate on a private consultation if you want to grab my ear for an hour and discuss your particular situation and work on your specific strategy for your company. I have a discounted rate for webinar guests only, and I'll send out information about that in the email recap after this. But before we go, we do have another question. So Elizabeth asks, would you suggest a consultant working from home use Google Maps listing? Seems better for brick-and-mortar businesses. Excellent point. Okay, so I'm glad you brought this because I forgot to touch upon that. If you are a business that doesn't have a physical address and that for your Google Maps listing, or you have a physical address that you use that could be your home address or some other address that you don't want to blast out to the world, what I suggest in this case is getting a mailing address at a place like a UPS store or mailbox store or somewhere where you can get a street address. A P.O. box will not work for this purpose, but a place where you can get a street address that you're just paying for a mailbox that's the way to go as far as if you have a home-based business or something, because this way you can make a Google Maps listing with that street address and optimize it and still get the benefit of that exposure that Google Local gives, and but not compromise your privacy. So that's what I recommend for that. And I also forgot to mention that Google Maps is now being referred to as Google Local, which is part of Google+. So everything coming full circle back to Google+, Google's kind of trying to force people to use Google+. So whether or not you see value in it as a social network doesn't really matter. If you want search engine results, it's got to be on Google+. So I hope that answers that question. Another question from Chris. Do you recommend claiming business listings on sites to help with link building? Haha. Excuse me. I think I know what you're referring to. And what is referred to in kind of SEO speak is citation building. There are a lot of sites out there like superpages.com, yellowpages.com, manta.com, merchantcircle.com. They're all kind of phone books, virtual phone books. And there are listings for your company there, whether you created it or not. There is usually a listing for your company on those sites. And claiming them and optimizing them, yes, does have a value. What you want to do with that is go for consistency. So the value in claiming it is that it allows you to edit it to make it perfectly consistent, and I mean perfectly consistent across the internet. Like if your company is on a street, it's a main street, whether you list it as S-T-R-E-E-T or S-T period or S-T without a period, that actually matters. So that is the value in claiming those listings, is that you have the opportunity to sync them all up and make them all the same, because if Google sees that consistency, it is more likely to put validity on the fact that your business really exists at that address. One more thing that made me think of is schema markup is another thing you want to do as far as local SEO. It's a little bit of HTML tags that you put on your website that tells Google that this information is my street address. Because if you don't do that and Google's doing the whole indexing process, it's like it doesn't really know which words on your website represent your street address versus which are just words. So using schema markup on your street address can tell Google this is where I am. And since it knows where the searcher is, then it can match up the searcher with your physical region on, now that it knows where your website is physically or where your business is physically. So there's three things you want to do actually with local. Is you want to optimize your Google Maps listing and get reviews on it. You want to do your citation building, those business listings across the web, make them all the same and all complete. And then you want to add the schema markup to your website. So great question, Chris. That is a great point to bring up. That's also referred to as NAP citations, N-A-P, name, address, phone number. They also include website nowadays, but the consistency and prevalence of those NAP citations does help with local SEO performance. Phew, okay, great questions, everyone. Last call. Oh, here we go. Okay. Is it possible to tag an image on your website for search engine optimization? Yes. Yes, good point, because Google does not see images and does not store, cannot interpret what an image is, there is a way that you can tag an image with a key phrase, and that's called the image alt tag, ALT. And that's how, when you put the image on your site, that's how you tell Google what it is. And you want to be careful, though, because that's another area that people figured out, they could stuff keywords into, and, Google will actually, that could put you at risk if you stuff keywords, all sorts of irrelevant keywords in there. But you should absolutely tag the image with a clear, relevant phrase as to what it is, so that Google can index it along with the other content on the page, and also optimize it for searches in Google Images. If you have a very visual product, or if you're trying to rank well in Google image search, then absolutely tagging that image is a very important part of that. I'm just reviewing, make sure I didn't miss anybody. Oh, one more would be repeating your blog title in the alt tag if applicable, be safe. Oh, blog article title. Okay, I think I know what you mean, Roxanne. Repeating your blog article title in the alt tag for the image for that article, it probably is safe. Yeah, I mean, as long as it really is relevant to the image. And maybe you want to do a shortened version of it just so as not to look like you're purposefully, gaming that tag. But yeah, I mean, there shouldn't be a problem in that. The problem lies in when you start stuffing all sorts of, like if you have a picture of a yellow widget and you're putting all sorts of stuff in your image alt tag, like, yellow widgets for sale, yellow widgets ship now, that kind of obvious keyword stuffing is where you run into problems. I think I covered all the questions. If I did miss any, I apologize, and I would be happy to answer them by email or by tweet or by Facebook, or you can pretty much find me anywhere on the web that says Pam Ann Marketing, so twitter.com/Pam Ann Marketing or facebook.com/Pam Ann Marketing, or my email is pam@pamannmarketing.com. So I hope this was helpful, and like I said, if you have any further questions for me, just let me know. And if you want to work with me further, look for that offer in the email that I'll be sending out after this. And that's it for now. I will see you next time. Have a good day, everyone. Take care.